My name is Troy Maddox. I'm 38 years old, born and raised just outside of Amarillo, Texas, and for 14 years, I served as a captain in the United States Marine Corps. I wore the uniform with pride, built a reputation on discipline and sacrifice, and gave my all to every mission, from dusty outposts in the Middle East to cold briefings in Washington. But service takes its toll, and after my last deployment, I knew I had to choose between continuing in uniform or being present as a husband and a father. I'd spent more birthdays on base than at home, more nights talking to my daughter over patchy satellite calls than tucking her in. When my little girl Lily turned 5, I looked at her and realized I didn't want to miss her 6th. I retired early, not out of weakness, but because I finally understood what strength meant to me. Strength was choosing to build something steady, to be there for the morning pancakes and the evening stories. My wife, Jessica, supported the decision. She said she was proud of me, told me she missed the man underneath the uniform. We bought a modest house in Colorado Springs, not too far from base, but far enough to feel like we were starting fresh. Lily had her own room with glow-in-the-dark stars, and Jessica filled the kitchen with plants that always looked on the verge of dying, but somehow never did. Life wasn't flashy, but it felt solid. I finally had a routine that didn't involve orders or protocols. Mornings with coffee, afternoons at the park, nights where I actually fell asleep beside my family instead of in some bunk halfway across the world. I thought I'd left the battles behind. There was a quiet kind of joy in stacking firewood or fixing the porch railing. Even when the VA nightmares came, I had Jessica's hand to hold. She told me I didn't need to be a soldier anymore, that I'd earned peace. I believed her. We didn't have everything, but we had enough. Jessica started helping her brothers with some side projects online. I didn't pay much attention, just thought it was some kind of veteran-focused content. I was too busy trying to adjust to normal life, and honestly, I trusted her. After all the chaos, she was the constant I came home to. The anchor that reminded me who I was before the medals and the missions. For the first time in years, I wasn't living minute to minute. I wasn't scanning every crowd or replaying old firefights in my head. I was just a man with calloused hands and a little girl who called me daddy. I didn't know then that the life I was building was standing on a fault line. I didn't hear the crack, not yet. But I remember thinking, this must be what peace feels like. A quiet morning, a full heart, a home that finally felt like mine. It was Jessica's idea to go out to the Utah desert. She said we needed a break from routine, that Lily would love the stars at night. Her brothers were tagging along too, which didn't bother me much. I never quite clicked with them, but they loved Lily and they always brought their camera gear along for whatever little projects they were doing. We drove out in Jessica's SUV, packed tight with snacks, sleeping bags, and coolers. The drive was long, but peaceful in that blank sky kind of way. Somewhere near Moab, we pulled over at a lonely gas station. Just one pump, a cracked bathroom door, and a vending machine that looked older than me. I said I'd grab water and fill up while they stretched their legs. When I came out with 2 bottles and a pack of gum, the SUV was gone. At first, I figured they'd just circled around to find a bathroom, or maybe they'd gone to let Lily see something nearby. I stood on the gravel, squinting into the heat. The sun was sharp, even through my sunglasses, and the silence out there didn't feel like nature. It felt like absence. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I walked around the station twice. The attendant didn't see anything. No one else was there. My calls went straight to voicemail. The chill of uncertainty slid into my spine. That creeping feeling, the one you get on patrol when something's off but no one's saying it yet. I sat down under the gas station awning, watching the road. Dust curled across the pavement. My hands wouldn't stop moving. I kept checking my phone, refreshing nothing. I told myself there was a logical reason, that maybe they'd had car trouble or Jessica had just driven off in a rush. I'd been conditioned to stay calm under fire, but this wasn't combat. This was worse. This was my own family. After an hour, I stopped pretending I was waiting. I was stranded, middle of nowhere. No shade but that rotting awning, no sound but the buzz of old fluorescent lights. I paced the parking lot like it was a cell, counting cracks in the pavement. Each minute added weight to the question I didn't want to ask out loud. Why hadn't they come back? I called a buddy back in Colorado. No answer. Then I called again. Finally, I got a signal good enough for one bar and sent a text. No reply. The sun kept dropping and I still sat there, watching the same stretch of empty highway. Something inside me cracked that day. Not loud, not sudden. It was quiet, like a seam splitting. I'd spent 14 years preparing for the worst, but nothing in the core had trained me for this. I wasn't lost in enemy territory. I was lost in my wife's idea of a family trip. And for the first time since combat, I felt truly abandoned. Not by a system, by the people I loved most. When I finally got a bar of signal strong enough to make a call, it was nearly dark. I stood behind the gas station, one arm raised like I was trying to catch God's attention, and dialed Jessica. It rang twice before she picked up, and when I heard her voice, something in me softened for a second. She laughed when I asked where they were. Said they'd just gone around the block. Said it was a joke, a light prank. They were coming back, she promised. Any minute now. But that minute stretched. And then it broke. They didn't come back. I ended up hitching a ride with a trucker who stopped for gas an hour later. Guy named Phil. I didn't talk much. Just said I'd been left behind. Didn't say by who. It took 2 rides, a motel stay, and 1 Greyhound bus to get back to Colorado. When I walked into the house, Jessica acted surprised. She smiled like nothing happened, asked how the trip was. The way she looked at me, I wondered if I'd imagined the whole thing, but then I saw it. On our living room TV, paused mid-frame, was a thumbnail of me sitting on the curb in Utah, eyes half shut in the heat. The title read, "We left a Marine dad in the desert. He had no clue." The channel was called Tactical Laughs. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the screen. It was surreal. My misery had a soundtrack now. Laugh tracks, meme captions, slow-motion zooms. They'd filmed everything. From the moment I walked out of the gas station to the calls I made, to me pacing like a dog that didn't know where home was. Jessica said it wasn't personal, that they did this kind of content all the time, that her brothers thought it'd be hilarious, and that I took things too seriously, like always. She said people loved it, that it had gone viral overnight, 5 million views in less than a day. I didn't yell, I didn't break anything. I just sat on the couch and watched the whole 10-minute edit of myself being turned into content. And I remember thinking how quiet my daughter's room was upstairs. How she had no idea her dad had just become a joke to half the internet. That night I didn't sleep. I just lay there beside Jessica, her back to me, breathing easy. I stared at the ceiling, counting the things I'd done right in life and wondering if they even mattered now. Not one person in that video saw a husband, not a father, not a Marine. They saw a punchline, a prop, a man left in the desert for clicks. And the worst part? I believed them when they said it was love. I believed they were coming back. But some people don't come back because the joke was never on them. It was always on you. A week after the video went viral, I learned the truth. Not just about the clip, about all of it. The channel, the planning, the months of content I didn't know existed. It started when I looked deeper into Tactical Laughs. I figured it was some third-party YouTubers who'd gotten lucky. But when I clicked on their About page, my heart stopped. There it was, listed clear as day. Creators: Jessica Maddox, Travis Dillard, Austin Dillard. Her brothers, my wife. All of them had been building that channel for over a year. While I was pouring concrete out back, trying to build a patio. While I was grocery shopping with Lily, trying to be present, they were scripting pranks. Filming tests, editing footage on that same laptop I thought she used for Pinterest recipes. I watched more of their content. It wasn't just my video. It was skits, challenges, surprise stunts. A whole series called Military Mayhem. Guys getting woken up with firecrackers, soldiers being tricked into thinking they were being deployed, and then there was mine, labeled The desert drop. 10 million views by then. I kept clicking, kept digging. Each video, each comment section felt like a punch. People laughing, sharing memes of me squinting in the Sunday. Someone edited in a cowboy hat and called me Desert Dad. Another said I looked like a Walmart Rambo who lost his GPS. My face was on TikTok reaction videos. I had become a trend. What hurt the most wasn't the views. It was realizing how far back it went. Jessica had filmed me without my knowledge. In the kitchen, muttering to myself while cooking, talking to Lily in the backyard. Once, they even clipped part of a therapy session I'd had on speakerphone when I thought no one was home. She called it raw, said their audience liked authenticity. I sat on the floor of our hallway, holding my head like I was back in a blast zone. It didn't feel real. This woman I had trusted with every vulnerable inch of me had sold my pain as entertainment, and I never saw it coming. People might wonder how I missed it. How a Marine, trained for high-risk environments, could be so blind. The truth is, I wasn't trained for betrayal from home. In the last 3 years of active duty, I was constantly deployed. The tempo was brutal. I'd lost 2 friends in a convoy hit, came back to base in pieces. Some physical, most not. I was battling PTSD, nightmares, panic attacks. The only peace I knew was Jessica, her voice on the phone, her smile on FaceTime. She was my anchor, the one I held onto because everything else felt like sand slipping through my hands. So when I came home and she said I was safe, I believed her. When she said I could rest, I let my guard down. I never thought to question the camera she kept in her office. I didn't ask what she and her brothers were laughing about late at night. I was too tired, too relieved to be out of the fight. So I didn't notice I had walked into a new battlefield. And this one didn't wear a uniform. I asked her why, quietly. One night after Lily had gone to bed, Jessica shrugged. Said it started as a side project, said it made money, said it wasn't meant to hurt me, that people needed to laugh, that I was strong, that I could take it. That was the moment something in me went quiet, not angry, just done. She thought I could take it because I wore a uniform, because I'd survived war. But she never saw the cracks. She never asked what it cost me to smile after a night of screaming into my pillow. She just pressed record. And for the world, I was content, a character, a moment, a hashtag. But for me, I was a man who had already given everything to something bigger than himself. And now, even my peace had been taken, by the very people I thought I came home to. I stayed inside for weeks. I stopped going to the grocery store. I didn't answer the door. I only left the house when Lily needed something or when Jessica wasn't home. The rest of the time, I sat in the dark, scrolling through comments, watching people laugh at a version of me I didn't recognize. The nightmares came back worse than before. Not the ones from the desert. These were newer. Ones where I was trapped in a room full of people pointing phones at me, laughing, clapping, turning my pain into a party. My heart would race at random hours, like I was back under fire, but the only thing chasing me now was shame. I thought about disappearing. Thought about walking until the mountain swallowed me up and no one would ever ask me to smile for a camera again. But Lily's drawings on the fridge kept me grounded. She still looked at me like I was the bravest man alive. And some part of me knew I owed her more than vanishing. One night, I got a message on an old military forum I joined years ago. A guy named Ethan said he recognized me from the Tactical Laughs channel. Said he'd been on there too. His video was from last spring. They'd swapped out his medication with candy on camera while he was recovering from back surgery. He had screamed in pain, and they added clown music over it. I called him. We talked for 3 hours. He was steady, clear, and tired. He told me he'd lost his job after the video. Couldn't go into work without someone playing it on their phone. His marriage didn't survive it, but he said something that stuck with me. He said the only thing worse than being humiliated is believing you're the only one who was. Ethan invited me to a small gathering of veterans in Denver. Just 5 guys. Quiet room, folding chairs and coffee. Every one of them had been featured on that channel or something similar. One guy had been filmed while having a panic attack in a VA parking lot. Another had his disability reenacted for laughs. We sat in that room, trading stories. No judgment, no cameras, just silence and voices that broke sometimes when the words got too heavy. It was the first time I laughed in weeks, not because something was funny, but because someone else understood what it felt like to be turned into a joke and still try to be a father, a man, a soul worth hearing. We started meeting every week. Nothing formal, no agenda, just stories and space. Some guys brought others, some brought coffee, some brought nothing but themselves, and that was enough. I started sleeping better. I turned off alerts on my phone. I stopped checking comments. I deleted the video from my bookmarks. I began seeing a counselor again, this time not out of duty, but choice. For the first time in months, I wasn't hiding behind walls. It was Ethan who said we should do something bigger, said the world was too loud with cruelty and not loud enough with care. We didn't want revenge, we wanted something different. A place where no one had to explain their pain twice. Where people broken by humiliation could remember they were more than the worst version of themselves caught on camera. And just like that, the road back stopped feeling so lonely. It didn't erase what happened. It didn't fix the betrayal. But it gave it context. It gave it company. And sometimes, when you're coming out of a dark place, company is the only light that matters. The idea for Ellery Haven started small. Just a sketch on Ethan's kitchen table and a question no one had answered for us. What happens to people after they become a joke? After the clicks fade and the laughter dies down, where do they go? We knew what that silence felt like, the isolation, the sense that your name was no longer your own. So we built something from that pain, not out of anger, but purpose. We took the darkest chapters of our lives and folded them into something others could walk into without fear. We rented a small space in a quiet part of town. It wasn't much. A few rooms, secondhand chairs, walls that needed paint. But we filled it with couches and coffee and people who listened. We called it Ellery Haven, named after the street where Ethan's father used to bring home stray dogs. A place for the misunderstood, the mistreated, and the mislabeled. People came, slowly at first. A teenage girl whose panic attack had been turned into a meme. A single dad who had tripped in a grocery store and became a gif. A veteran who froze during a public speech and was ridiculed for being weak. We welcomed them all. No questions about what went wrong. Only what they needed to feel human again. We brought in counselors, trauma therapists, legal advisors. Not everyone needed therapy. Some needed help removing content from the web. Some just needed someone to sit with them when the shame felt too heavy. We didn't promise to fix anyone. We promised not to leave them alone. Ethan organized weekly support circles. I handled outreach, wrote letters to platforms, and pushed for policy changes. A few lawyers worked pro bono to help victims of digital humiliation reclaim their dignity. We weren't trying to cancel anyone. We were building space for people who had already been canceled by accident. We started offering digital detox programs, social media boundaries, reputation rebuilding. Small things that slowly made people feel in control again. People began volunteering. Former victims came back to help new ones. We watched folks go from broken to blooming in ways that made the pain worth surviving. Ellery Haven grew faster than we expected. Within a year, we had a wait list. Within 2, we had chapters in 3 other states. But we kept the spirit small. We knew names. We remembered stories. And every time someone walked in that door thinking they were beyond redemption, we made sure they left knowing they weren't. There's no cure for public shame, but there is healing. And there is dignity in choosing to rise anyway. We didn't build Ellery Haven to erase the internet. We built it because not everything that goes viral deserves to be the end of a person's story. In those halls, we reclaimed more than peace. We reclaimed the power to say, I am more than what they saw. I am more than what they laughed at. I am still here, and I am not alone. It was almost a year to the day when Jessica showed up at Ellery Haven, She didn't call ahead. Just walked through the front door while I was refilling the coffee pot in the lobby. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just quiet. Like life had stopped echoing back what she expected to hear. She said she was sorry. Said she didn't know how far it would all go. That she missed me. That she wanted to come home. Her voice trembled like it used to when she was being honest. But this time, I didn't feel the need to fix anything. I listened. That was all. I let her speak. Let her explain the late nights, the excuses, the pressure from her brothers. I let her cry, but I didn't hold her hand. I didn't offer comfort. Because this time, I was the one who needed to be still while someone else unraveled. She asked if we could start again. If I could come home. That word, home, used to mean her. But not anymore. Home had become the mornings I spent at Ellery Haven, the quiet strength in Ethan's nod across a room, the notes Lily left in my lunchbox with smiley faces that reminded me who I was. My life didn't pause after the betrayal, it transformed. I told her I forgave her, and I meant it. I didn't say it to make her feel better. I said it because I didn't want to carry that weight into the next season of my life. But I also told her no, I wasn't coming back, and not because I wanted her to hurt, because I didn't want to hurt myself again. Some people think strength is holding on, but for me it came from letting go. From knowing that healing didn't have to include the person who broke you. That sometimes you love someone, and then you learn to love them from a distance where they can't touch the parts of you they once shattered. Jessica left quietly. She didn't argue, didn't plead. Maybe she saw it in my eyes. That the man she left at that gas station in Utah had died, and the one standing in front of her now had nothing left to prove. I walked back into the main room where Ethan was setting up chairs. He looked up, gave a slight smile, and didn't say a word. He didn't need to. I was already home. That night, I drove Lily to her piano lesson. We stopped for milkshakes after. She told me about a boy in her class who pulled her hair, and I told her next time, just look him in the eye and say no with her whole chest. She asked if I ever got scared. I told her I used to be, but not anymore. Not of silence, not of loneliness, not even of letting go. Because I had finally learned that peace doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes it looks like walking away and never turning back.